Hi, everyone. Welcome back for another Build Hour. We're so excited to have you here today. My name is Sarah Urbonis. I lead startup marketing here at OpenAI. I am joined by two absolute legends who internally need no introduction. But Terry, Erica, can you introduce yourselves and share what you've been up to this past week?
Absolutely. So I'm Terry. I am a multimodal API PM here.
And I'm a solutions engineer on our technical success org, helping our largest digital native customers scale on our API platform.
And so today, everything is about GPT Realtime 2, which we just released last week. So the goal of Build Hours is really to empower you with the best practices, tools, and AI expertise to scale your company using OpenAI APIs and models. Whether you're a founder or an engineer at a larger company, we hope what you learn today can actually take these products and put them into production and help you scale faster. You can sign up for all of our Build Hours at the link below, and also find them on YouTube. So there's lots of great content that we have, and we're going to jump right into it because we have a packed hour. So today we're going to go through kind of just an overview of what we released last week, share a little bit more about what you can specifically build with and where you should focus on, as well as going through a couple of specific demos. So we're first going to go through voice-powered search agents, then product analytics dashboard. As always with Build Hours, we're going to build these live, so pray to the voice demo gods that everything works out. And then we are really excited to be joined by the team at Sierra. They're going to share how they're building with Realtime 2 and also some tips from the pros with building with voice agents in general. As always, we will save some time for Q&A at the end. There's a Q&A button that you'll see on your screen. As we're going through the session today, feel free to ask questions there. We have folks in the studio who will answer them live. And then at the end, we'll always save some time to answer questions, both with Terry, Erica, and the Sierra team. So with that, let's kick it off.
Amazing.
Awesome. So we had a big audio drop last Thursday with 3 new models. So we'll go through them today. Here's just a very quick view of everything going on. But we wanted to actually show you and immerse you in the experience. So we're going to go through some demos. So then for the next slide, we're going to make sure to, we want to know where everyone's from. And so if you could just drop a flag for where you're calling from or where you're dialing in from. We want to show you potential translation model in this potential language. So yeah.
Looks like we always have a lot of Spanish speakers in the room. So let's choose that for translation. I'm going to pop over to our translation demo. And Terry, I'd love you to give this a spin.
Cool. So when I wake up this early,
Así que cuando me despierto tan temprano, estoy mejor.
So because I'm hungry, I want to talk about some breakfast items.
Entonces, porque tengo hambre, quiero hablar de algunas cosas para el desayuno.
Terry.
An acai bowl.
¿Se te antoja algo, Terry? ¿Un bol de azaí?
Soy milk.
¿Un café con leche? Quizá un poco de leche de soja.
What's better than breakfast is potentially a new
Pero
OpenAI
¿qué hay
model.
mejor que el desayuno?
Okay,
Posiblemente una nueva filtración de modelos de OpenAI. Bien, ahí lo dejamos. Luego hablemos de este modelo.
Okay, so
Bien, estoy emocionado.
let's see.
So you can see here on the left is our transcript and then the output translation transcript.
Absolutely. So number one, you're already seeing in action, which is the real-time translate model. So it powers conversations that feel like language barriers disappear. It supports over 70 input and 13 output languages with low latency streaming translation. And it's really great for video calls, live streams, customer service. And then also you're seeing number 2, which is our GPT real-time whisper model. That's secretly powering this experience as well, where you can see streaming capability with tunable latency as low as 200 milliseconds with 80 input languages. And so that means you can have earlier function calling, better instruction following, and live products will feel faster, more responsive for captions, meeting notes, ambient agentic context. And then we have our third model that we released as well. That is GPT Realtime 2. So you'll see here, it is our most intelligent voice model. It brings GPT-5 class reasoning into voice. And it's very strong at prompt adherence, tool calling, multilingual performance, which are all critical to voice production workflows. And so you now have these 3 different ways that you can build. So you have voice to action, like hands-free voice-driven apps. You have your systems to voice, which is like a voice chief of staff, but it's organized into spoken voice. And then you have voice to voice, like customer service calls. Companies like T-Mobile use all around the world.
And someone commented in the chat in Spanish and said, wow, that's good. So I'm assuming that it translated acai bowl and oat milk latte.
Good. I was worried about that.
And actually, hopefully everybody could hear, we have dynamic voice cloning as part of this. So we can have multiple speakers and you can actually tell that different people are speaking, which I think is really cool.
Dynamic tone matching is really great for sure. Cool. And then for real-time 2, there's a bunch of new capabilities. So beyond just like the emotion matching that you get from voice to voice, there's also things like preambles where you can say, let me check on that, like a real human would before reasoning. There's also increased context windows. This was a major request that we had. It increased 4x to 128K now. And so that roughly translates to
like almost an hour, which is also coincidentally our session. So it really increases the instruction following the intelligence because we don't have to truncate.
Yes, exactly. And then there's also parallel tool calls. So you no longer have to like waterfall the tool calls. There's also better domain vocabulary, understanding like healthcare or AI terms. And then there's context over turns, which means better agentic behavior, and then controllable expressiveness. So you can try telling it to whisper, be excited, jealous, try different things. We're excited to see what you come up with. And on benchmarks, you'll see major jumps in both intelligence, instruction following, and tool calling. And so, yeah, I'm very excited about the next wave of AGI that'll be more global, hands-free, more accessible to everyone around the world. But now we're going to have Erica actually show us what it's like under the hood.
I'm really excited to show off our first demo today, which is an e-commerce site with a voice-powered search agent. In this demo, the real-time API is powering search that's not just chatting, but actually operating the UI through tool use. And I think this really highlights the power of our reasoning models and parallel tool calling. So let me pop over. So I have been planning this trip to the Pacific Northwest. I'm going hiking. I've already bought a few things from my favorite trail supply company. And I need to keep shopping. So I want to use the SupplyCo shopping assistant to help me make some more purchases. Hey, can you remind me, where did we leave off? What do I still need to buy for this trip?
I'll pull up your shopping plan and see what's still missing. You still need a tent and hiking shoes. Your day pack, trail socks, and insulated bottle are already covered. Which one do you want to look for first?
Let's start with tents, and I want to see tents under $450 that would fit 3 to 4 people.
I'll search tents and narrow to options under your budget. 2 good options are highlighted. One is a higher rated 3 to 4 person tent at $419.85 with free shipping tomorrow. The other is a quicker open style at $357, but it's not marked as full stock. Do you want to open?
Okay. Actually, can you tell me about any 1 or 2 star reviews on the more expensive tent?
I'll scan the low-rated reviews for that tent. The low-star reviews mainly say setup can be slower than expected the first time, and it's not a great pick for heavy storms or strong wind and downpour. For a typical Pacific Northwest weekend, those complaints aren't deal breakers if you expect light to moderate rain, but I'd switch to a more storm-ready tent if you expect rough weather.
Okay, well, I actually haven't checked the weather in a while. Would you mind looking up the forecast for the Seattle area the weekend after next for me?
I'll check the Seattle forecast for that weekend and weigh the storm risk. Storm risk looks moderate. Some rain and a breezy spell, but not a clear storm. That tent is probably fine for a normal rainy weekend, but I'd use a footprint and solid stakes.
Okay, that's good advice. Okay, add that to my cart, and then let's move on and look at some waterproof hiking boots.
I'll add the tent to your cart, then I'll check your save size and find waterproof boots. I added the tent to your cart. For waterproof boots in US 10 with free shipping, I highlighted a higher rated pair and a cheaper pair. Do you want to open the higher rated one or the lower priced one?
Let's look at the cheaper one first. Can you show me the product page for that?
I'll open the cheaper boots product page so you can review the details. This pair is $224.85, rated 4.5 stars and has free shipping. US 10.
Okay, well, I see I break-in takes a few hikes. I've got to get busy in the next 2 weeks, but otherwise I kind of want to save a little bit of money here. So can you add these ones to my cart and then pull up my cart? I want to see my total.
I'll add these goods in US 10, then I'll open your cart so you can see the total. Your cart has the tent and the boots, and the total is $644.70. I can't check you out here.
Is there anything else? Like, tell me a little bit about these optional add-ons.
Nice optional add-ons would be a rain layer and a tent footprint or stay kit, since they help in wet, breezy conditions.
Yeah, maybe I'll come back for a rain layer, but I think this is good for now. Thanks so much for helping me shop.
You're very welcome, Erica. Have an awesome trip, and I'll be here when you're ready for that rain layer.
Amazing. Okay, so the thing I think is really exciting here is our model sounds really good. It sounds really natural. The voice is really steerable. But the most exciting thing is this intelligence. It's operating the UI through tools. It can choose between, I think I'm passing it 15 or 20 tools here, which is something that was way beyond what we could expect or would recommend for our previous real-time models. So it can choose between those tools. It can inspect the current page and decide what actions are needed. You could see it was calling multiple tools in a row when that was what was needed, including external tools like weather, so that I didn't have to leave the SupplyCo site in order to understand like what purchase I should make. So I think this just leads to a lot more natural than our kind of speech in, single action out previous workflows. This is like an actual shopping assistant that can reason across all these tools and update the visual experience as it talks. So I think the next thing I want to show you is really the other side of this. So I was just a shopper on an e-commerce website, SupplyCo, but now I want to demo as if I'm the product manager of SupplyCo. And I think this is really interesting because I think anybody who's used ChatGPT or other maybe voice-to-voice solutions is kind of like understands this. I talk, the model talks back kind of experience, but really we're thinking about voice to action as this new kind of workflow because the model's so good at tool calling. And not everybody wants the model to constantly be talking back. So I'm going to swap over to my product analytics dashboard, right? So I'm a product manager at SupplyCo. And actually, there's a lot going on this dashboard, but so I kind of want help with this. If only I had an AI assistant that could help me with this. The thing I've been hearing is about Europe. So let me open up my session and start talking. Let's filter by Europe. That's what I'm hearing issues about right now. Cool. And let's look at the last 7 days and compare that to the 7 days prior. Okay, cool. Yeah, I can see a big drop there. Looks like Safari is a problem. And oh, I can see, thanks for highlighting this. Can you point out any other filters that you think would be relevant here to this investigation? Okay, cool. Okay, so filter by voice search, first-time shoppers, and footwear. We'll start there. Cool. Okay, yeah, I can see this is like a huge activation drop off. Okay, what's next? Actually, can you kick off the root cause investigation here? And I think I just want to compare mobile Safari to Chrome because that seems like where a lot of these issues are taking place. Perfect. Yeah, Safari is really the problem here. Okay, let me expand this back open. Metric Loop, can you give me a 2-sentence overview out loud explaining this root cause investigation so I can explain it to my engineering team?
The investigation shows a mobile Safari specific regression where the product detail page size selector validation doesn't update correctly. So first time Europe footwear shoppers get stuck after choosing a size and can't add to cart. Chrome is near baseline, which points to the PDP release behavior on Safari, rather than a broad traffic quality or search issue.
Okay, amazing. This is super helpful. I'm going to pass this on to my engineering team in a ticket. Super helpful. Thank you so much. Okay, cool. So why do I think this is cool? The model's good enough at instruction following that it only talked when I asked it to. Like, I didn't need it to confirm with me every time it did a filter. I just wanted it to take that action so I didn't have to go through and click myself. And I can go in, click in and see its reasoning at any time and see the transcript so that I can interact it with chat as well. This to me is a huge step forward in intelligence, in instruction following, and it means that the model can behave like an analyst in the loop. So like the e-commerce site, I'm passing in a ton of tools. I also asked the model to reason over a huge amount of mock data, which I think is really exciting because we have that reasoning. It can actually write code, it can create dashboards, it can make artifacts. Our old models could handle simple voice commands and call some tools, but I hope this demo shows a more durable pattern, right? This is a real-time agent that can actually route across tools, maintain investigation state, and turn this live analytics workflow into something conversational without actually losing developer control over the data or the UI. And with that, I want to pass it back to Terry to talk a little bit about some of the use cases that we're seeing for voice.
Yeah, so we're really excited for you to build with voice interfaces across agents, across apps. Here are just some of the use cases that we'd love to show you. So there's a lot of smart device integrations that you could potentially think about, different coding assistants and voice experiences that make things fast, easy. There's mobile apps you can add a voice box to for any kind of voice experience. There's the video game up and down and jump experience that you could control with voice. You have coaches like public speaking coaches, note-taking, finance voice US, agentic video calls. All this can be done with a voice layer now. So really exciting time that we're in where, in the future, kids will learn or will speak to AI more than they will even necessarily know how to type to AI. So we're ready to build for that wave. And the other just slight nod here is that all these were created with GPT Image 2. So if you're in a place where you just want to ideate and you need more brainstorming, GPT Image 2 can do some of this for you, or some mocking as well for different concepts. So, yeah.
Amazing. And I think next we're switching to our customer spotlight. So I think we're really excited to have the Sierra team here. I know we have Ken and Soham. Are they on the line?
Can we hear them?
Yes. Can you hear us?
Oh, awesome.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
Okay, there we go. Hello. Hey, so I'm Ken Murphy. I'm an engineer on the voice team at Sierra. So Sierra helps businesses build better, more human customer experiences with AI. So in practice, we build AI agents that can resolve real customer service issues end-to-end, not just answer questions. So many of our customers are large enterprises, including many Fortune 100 companies, which means these agents need to work at high scale, integrate with complex systems, and follow nuanced business policies. So, on the slide, here are a couple examples of the incredible brands that we work with and the scale that we're operating at. So what makes this technically hard is that the agent is not just generating a response, it's deciding when to act, what tools to call, what information to use from a large knowledge database, and whether a given action is allowed. So in a customer-facing environment, small error rates quickly become real business risk. So an agent that hallucinates a policy or takes the wrong action even 0.1% of the time is just not shippable. So the challenge is not just, can we make the agent sound natural? It's whether we can build, evaluate, constrain, and operate agents that businesses trust to represent them directly with their customers. So now we're going to look into what we've built to operate agents at this scale and how we're using the real-time API.
Oh, hello.
Hey Ken, this is Jade from Demo Loans. We've got great news, but first I gotta say, you may verbally opt out at any time. This call may be recorded for quality. Last time we chatted back in March, you were eyeing Noe Valley. Has that shifted at all?
Yeah, still looking in San Francisco, but now in the Sunset.
Staying in San Francisco and shifting to the Sunset makes sense for a lot of buyers. Are you looking for a single-family home, condo?
Yeah, I'm looking for a single-family home.
Got it. Single-family homes in the Sunset can be a nice fit. What's your budget or max purchase price?
About $350K.
Your licensed mortgage banker, Sarah, is here to help. You're in great hands.
Cool. So that's an example of one of the demo agents that we've been testing. So in general, we're very excited about real-time too. It directly goes after some of the biggest production voice problems that we face. So, latency, turn taking, reasoning, and speech quality. Like voice is pretty unforgiving. A pause of even half a second can feel awkward or broken. And that's why the voice-to-voice architecture is so compelling. So we don't have to have this separate speech-to-text transcription or text-to-speech synthesis. Instead, real-time can just cut out parts of the traditional cascaded stack and make the interaction feel faster, smoother, and more human. But while real-time 2 gives us a stronger foundation, like at Sierra, the model is just one piece. Around it, we still run our agent harness, which handles all of the additional infrastructure needed to run agents reliably and securely in production. So with that harness, we define the workflows needed for each individual customer. That includes the tools the agent can use, the language and branding it should follow, guardrails it needs, and the grounding required to keep it aligned with the customer's specific policies. We also use our own custom-tuned VAD models to decide when a user has stopped speaking, which gives us a lot more control over turn taking. We've found that this performs better for our use cases, where real-world audio is often messy and includes a lot of background noise, accents, interruptions, people changing course mid-sentence. And then this harness also handles tracing, like redaction of sensitive information, PCI-compliant payment flows, and a range of other production features that help ensure that agents stay accurate, safe, and on brand. And it's this production layer that takes us from a strong base model, like real-time 2, to a system that is controllable, observable, and safe enough for some of the world's largest companies to trust with their customers. So, impact so far is that mainly what we're looking for is faster, relevant audio, more natural conversations, stronger tool execution, and higher end-to-end task success. In some of our initial testing, we have definitely seen latency gains. So we've seen calls that are roughly 30% faster at P50 and up to 200% faster at P90 compared to our cascaded system. So it does really help with naturalness overall. Voice quality has been strong. It's been competitive with some of the dedicated synthesis providers that we use, based on our internal evaluations. Speed and voice quality are not enough. Like in a traditional stack, we have to evaluate transcription, the agent harness, and synthesis separately. With voice-to-voice, we have to evaluate the full call, listening, reasoning, acting, speaking. To do that, we also use simulations that replay realistic customer calls, customized to each customer's workflow, which lets us measure whether the agent actually completes the task, not whether it sounds good. So that's kind of the real bar for production voice, not just an agent that sounds human, but one that can be trusted to do the work. So I'm going to hand it off to Soham, who will talk about Tau Voice and how Sierra evaluates voice models end-to-end.
Hello. I'm Soham, and I represent the voice research team at Sierra. I know Erica said that voice is her favorite modality, and Ken said that voice is really unforgiving. So it's really fun that both of them are true at the same time. Okay, so I guess the first thing about voice agents is that they don't get to pick their audio. Customer service calls are sophisticated, they're nuanced, and everything Ken said. And calls very rarely look like the ideal calls we want them to. Ideal calls are like often text-like, where there's like clear turn boundaries, and it's easy to disambiguate what's being said. Information is like conveyed crisply, and it's not lossy. And production calls almost never look like this, right? Like there's always interruptions, there's accents. And the question we really ask ourselves is, can a voice agent handle a call from a customer who's like on the side of a highway or in a car with kids? Or can it handle a customer who is really impatient, an aggressive interrupter, and doing all of this while trying to like make progress on the task that they're trying to accomplish at the same time? And this is hard. And this brings us to like common failure modes that we see with agents like this. And if we can move to the next slide, that would be great. Yes. So there are different forms of failure modes. I think we have found that some agents can be really good at the conversation part of things, whereas some agents are better with just getting things done and like tool calls. And when you bring both of them together, the error modes really compound, and we see a lot of performance degradation in these situations. Some really common forms of error are like with spelling out names and numbers. This can be quite tricky in that if you get like one letter wrong, are you able to recover from this gracefully? If you do you keep that in your memory? Or like when you make a tool call later with my name, do you get the spelling right, or do you use the incorrect spelling from the beginning? And we see that agents sometimes get mired in their own mistakes and are unable to like move on from there. And at the same time, there's different forms of errors where like they're more logical in the sense of, oh, you wanted to cancel a flight, but the agent misunderstood which flight this was. And this, like, airline is quite high stakes, right? So like you can be really stuck in like dire situations where you're in a city or a country you don't want to be in, and you're stranded because your voice agent canceled the wrong flight, and we don't want this. There's also parts of conversation that are hard to work with. Like, I think we don't realize it, but humans often back channel with like mm-hms and uh-hs and yes, that's right. And a lot of our voice models are trained to respond to everything that we say. And humans are much better with being selective with this. It can be hard to be like, okay, that's a signal I should ignore versus that's a signal I should respond to. Yeah, and we have found cascaded models to really shine in this situation because we can really overfit to these conditions, and customers are complex, and we want the brands to, like, we want our agents to represent the brands. And it's been really fun to see that like voice-to-voice models are now able to absorb that complexity and really improve their reasoning and their communication. And that's been really exciting. So yeah, this brings us to thinking models, which is what we're talking about today. So thinking models have been a real step change in voice-to-voice models. Our leaderboard at Tau Voice has been dominated by thinking models. And it's not that easy to think in voice conversations. You can't just have a buffering loop while you're thinking. Like, you have to say, okay, like, give me a moment, or let me think about that. And you have to be okay with being interrupted in these situations and maintaining state, and not like, yeah, you should be able to carry forward even if you're interrupted during these situations. And all of these issues sort of explode multilingually, and it's been really fun to see that OpenAI has made like some really big strides here, and real-time 2 is significantly better. There's a high ceiling, but we are really getting there. And for someone who's been like waiting for voice-to-voice models for a while, it is very exciting to see voice-to-voice in the mainstream. Yeah, that is me. Thank you.
Sierra, thank you for being such an amazing team to work with. You're one of my favorite companies ever. So yeah, it's been great to just see you guys continue.
Great, and we're going to move into Q&A. If you just exit or escape and refresh the deck, I dropped in some questions. We got a lot of great questions through the chat. There were a lot of questions about interruptions and how those are handled. So wanted to kick it off. Sierra, you shared a little bit about how you kind of layer your own margin detection on top of real-time too. There were a few questions if people should rely on built-in turn detection versus adding app-side interruption logic and kind of what the best practice is there.
Yeah, I think it depends on your specific use case. So, I mean, out of the box, Real-Time 2 does come with their own VAD models, like you were talking about, both semantic and server. And we're finding they were working pretty well. We just have our own customized VAD model that is very specific to customer service call audio. So like having very heavy background noise, you know, kids in the background, a TV in the background, that kind of thing.
Any recommendations from you both?
Yeah, there are different padding recommendations that we have, but also it really depends on the situation of where your device, what kind of device you're calling in, what kind of environment you're in. It does require often tuning and optimization just to see what is actually working for you. But is there anything that you want to share beyond the semantic?
I think not even just on that piece, but one thing that I think people don't necessarily know is that you can disable it on a turn-by-turn basis. So if you have something you need the model to say, like a disclaimer, you can actually disable VAD on that turn. So the model will definitely say that it won't be interrupted, and then you can enable it going forward. And so I think that's kind of a cool thing, because it's not just relying on instruction following, it's actually preventing the user from interrupting.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of a cool feature. Yeah.
That is cool. The next question is also just such a tee up for the Sierra team. And a question that we get all the time as builders are starting to explore real-time models and bring more voice modalities into their products. What actually separates a useful AI assistant from an AI system that can actually improve real-world business workflows? And I think reading between the lines of this, for real-time specifically, as the models are starting to become more capable, especially in those real-world interactions.
Yeah, maybe I'll go first and then I can pass it to the Sierra team. So we're seeing a lot of great use cases in these fast capture, fast intent, where it is easier to drive things with voice and more convenient than it necessarily is with text. So there's trade-offs when you're building with either. With text, obviously, there's more information density, but with voice, you can use it when you're driving. You can use it on the go, on mobile. You can use it if you just have a generalized idea of what you want, but the model can interpret it into something that's more of a coherent prompt. So different use cases we're seeing for sure. I think in particular, there's also younger demographics can use voice more than text in some cases. So definitely a lot of different use cases, but Sierra, I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, I think on the customer service front, with our voice, we tried to bake in many things that we see in production traffic with interruptions and noise and accents. But it is a benchmark, so it's not production traffic, and there are many more complexities that go into that. And I think Ken is much more familiar with this.
Yeah, for production agents, at least with Sierra, a lot of it goes into how do you orchestrate the entire call. So I think real-time is great at responding within a turn and figuring out what to do. But a lot of what goes into the Sierra side is how do you define the different workflows that an agent can need to work through. So we work directly with individual customers to figure out, what does your refund policy look like? And then how do we expose the right context to real-time 2 at the right time?
I think fundamentally, the biggest difference between voice and text is that you can speak like 4 times faster than you can type. So that alone, I think, unlocks a lot of use cases. And to your point, a lot of people feel comfortable like stream of consciousness speaking about maybe like a house that they want to buy or a car. So you can think about it as a more intimate, kind of casual way for somebody to even interact with an application and provide more context than they might if they had to actually type it out.
Yeah. And since we are like doing a kind of global live stream here, like there are countries that are very voice first. So Brazil, India can be some of these countries that might prefer to interact with your app via voice. So just different considerations.
It's cool walking around our offices too and hearing people talking to their computers increasingly. And even as we were preparing for this, our production team was sharing that they're using codecs through the real-time model so that they're actually like talking to codecs through their headset, which is just so cool. And it's neat to see how we're like drinking our own champagne with these real-time models internally. All right. We got some questions on like, what if audio sessions are more than 1 hour of calls? What approaches should we try?
Do you have any thoughts there? I'm just impressed that you're able to get the question on the presentation so quickly. Yeah, so I think there's different ways that you could set it up. I mean, if you could have multiple sessions running at once, you could also stage them such that you have different sessions chained after one another.
I think like the biggest thing, and this is not even just like, oh, my session's more than an hour, but you might have somebody call back, or maybe you have like a call drop, for example, a user hangs up accidentally. Actually saving that state of what's been happening so you can rehydrate the next session is probably the most important thing. So if you are going over an hour, like start a new session and then hydrate that with all the context from the previous hour. And because we have that extended window now to 128,000 tokens, you can provide way more context in that initial session. So that's probably what I would recommend, is just like, you're going to have to start a new session and make sure that you've saved all that state from the first hour.
Great. And when do you escalate to GPT-5.5 via an advisory pattern?
Based on your evals. I think the Sierra team could probably talk about that. And in our old real-time models, we kind of recommended that for basically anything with reasoning, because they just fundamentally didn't have that intelligence. So let the real-time model handle this kind of maybe small, easier to handle set of tools, and then escalate out to a frontier model for anything else. But it's always going to be based on your evals. So yeah, maybe I'll pass it to the Sierra team to talk about how you think about evaluating the model for handling certain kinds of complexity.
Yeah, I think like, I'm assuming by advisory pattern, you mean like something like, okay, in this case, maybe we need more thorough reasoning or something. And I think for a while we thought about, and so I'm on the research side, maybe Ken, you can talk about what we do in production, but on the research side for a while, we thought about, okay, maybe let's sort of put this conversation on hold for a second and think about this using a text model and get back to us. But I think with real-time 2 and thinking models, it's been real cool to see this. The model does it itself. The model says that, give me a minute, it thinks about it, and then it comes back to you with an answer. What do we do?
Yeah, we have 2 approaches on the production side. One, we have supervisors within an agent that asynchronously is reviewing the conversation as it goes and deciding, like, do we need to inject additional information into the context to kind of get it back on the rails. The second approach, honestly, is that like we support both real-time 2 and just having everything go through GPT-5.4. So depending on the complexity of the agent, we'll sometimes use real-time 2 if it's something that we want to do really fast. And for more complex agents, we'll stick with traditional text-based models.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you can always inject context at any time without even triggering a model response with conversation item create. So to that point, you can have a background tool call running and the model can keep talking. It's totally fine with these kind of asynchronous tool calls happening. So then when that background longer running process happens, you can then just inject whatever tool call results you had back in, so that the real-time model has that and actually can create a response.
Yeah, I think in general, we do a lot of orchestration and context management.
Yeah, especially important when you were dealing with a smaller context window, but even here, this window is smaller than frontier models, so definitely super important.
That's a great segue into our last question that we'll answer live, which is, how do real-time agents maintain that context and decision consistency while interacting with multiple tools?
I think one of the resources that we have on our blog is about Perplexity using context management to kind of get to this production state. Yeah, would definitely recommend reading that, but there's a lot of truncation optimization and when they had the real-time 1.5 setup. Now with real-time 2 and the larger context window, there's a lot more possible for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I want to call out, this is a reasoning model. So if you're familiar with reasoning models from, just like our normal mainline models, this model has chain of thought. This model operates a little differently in that it kind of has this idea of preambles, but it's going to provide you its reasoning the same way our frontier models are. So it's not losing context as it's making those parallel tool calls. It's just calling tools like any of our other frontier models. So I think it's actually bringing it up to par with what your experience would be of our existing models, as opposed to some other kind of context or decision consistency. The only call it I guess I would have is that you don't have to maintain the state turn over turn. You can dynamically, context engineer it, but we will by default pass all of that turn to turn so that, we're kind of automatically maintaining that state and context.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, the thing I want to stress with this model is how good it is at the instruction following piece. So if you have any conflicting instructions in your prompt, it will, try to do both. And so one thing we found really helpful is just to basically ask models themselves, is there any kind of conflicting advice or ways to optimize this prompt? And it's pretty good at giving you that more optimized version of it.
Great. So Ken, thank you so much for joining us. We got some really great questions and we've been answering them in the chat. We're going to send out some resources after this, the blog that Terry mentioned, where you can actually see some of those use cases, best practices, docs, playground, and as always, the Build Hour repo, where we will share some code snippets with you to start playing around with. So our next Build Hour is going to be on May 28th. It's going to be on the Agents SDK, which we also recently launched. And as always, you can find all of our upcoming build hours at the link below, as well as the recorded sessions on YouTube. So thank you for joining us today. You will get a survey after this, just asking for any feedback on topics that you want to learn more about. We really tried to base these sessions on what's interesting, what would be most impactful for you to build with. So let us know what you want us to cover next. Thanks for tuning in.